Lee Koepping is Vice President of Global Sales Engineering for ScienceLogic. It's great to see you, Lee. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
How are you seeing organizations sync up the speed at which they want to move innovation-wise and the speed at which they can go because of the acquisition process that a lot of times people say, well, it's back.
Yeah. It's an interesting point, especially always been an issue in technology, but I would say now it's compounded. You have two factors. You have the ever-present pressure of justification. There's also, not talked about widely, but of a turnover in procurement relative to the federal writ large. And so you have new experience combined with increasing pressures, which creates a natural slowdown. But technology is increased, especially with the everything increasingly moving to software. So you don't have lead times, you don't have as much supply chain. And so, yeah, they're on a collision course for efficiency. And I think really there's no one area to turn the screw to make it all better. But I think careful care has to be made within the procurement guidelines, which are to some extent somewhat fixed and slower moving, to create the flexibility to allow changes from the time you conceive a solution to the time it's procured. The technology cycle is too fast. You have to allow that flexibility so that you're not buying yesterday's technology, tomorrow.
A lot of military organizations say they've made progress in being able to tell industry, this is the problem we want you to solve, rather than writing a whole long list of requirements. Is that showing up on your?
It is, yeah. I think that's one of those, build the flexibility into the model. Don't focus on feature, function, spec, focus on outcome. And when you achieve an outcome, the technology in which you get there could be a bit more flexible as long as the stated objective is the outcome. And as long as it's measurable, I think all parties are satisfied, when they achieve an outcome, how they can measure it, how they can justify the expenditure,
et cetera. This also seems to be helping the customer side, the government side, avoid being locked into something that 2 years from now isn't really on the edge of anything.
Well, I think a little bit of it's building that muscle memory, going from decades of feature function spec to, well, what is my outcome? And it really does challenge the thinking on that side to write a solid outcome oriented requirements that is void of speeds and feeds and things that might lock you into a technology.
Are they getting better at understanding or coming to vendors to learn the art of the possible?
Yeah.
Rather than just saying, this is what we want. And
A lot more of that, I think, ever than there was before, because there was a rigidity of the procurement process where once an RFI hit, there was no dialogue. It was question, answer, formal response, formal solicitation. There is a lot more dialogue inherent to the process now, which just fosters a better outcome.
Mm-hmm. What are the questions that you get in those dialogue sessions? And maybe what are people asking you that they are not asking you that they should?
I think when you challenge them with an outcome-oriented objective, I mean, that's as long as a piece of string to some people. And so it really challenges them to think about the outcome, but almost as important, outcome is great. That's theoretical. How do we measure it? And getting into the details of how you're going to measure it without having a baseline is really a big challenge. And it's hard for, especially Department of War community, but elsewhere within government, to try and have a compare and contrast to commercial. So we can suggest all day long, these are best practices, but things work a little bit differently.
What's the best way that industry can serve that government customer by helping them to understand this is how to achieve the outcome that you want, maybe not in the exact way that you thought you were going to do it?
I think that is incumbent upon the industry to focus on outcomes as well. It doesn't matter who has what feature. It doesn't matter who's fast, who's slow. It really is about the outcome and trying to warrant a measurable SLO, SLA around, in our case, operational efficiency, right? There are certain levers which define that. And the more we focus on that and the less about the product, the more we're actually educating the customer on how to write that ringworm.
What do you see coming down the line for these folks from either a technology perspective or an acquisition perspective or whatever, that they don't have to think about today necessarily, but should be on their minds for the future?
I think they're already thinking about it today, but it's how they leverage things like AI in the procurement process outside of the technology realm per se. How do we apply that to doing more with less, creating those efficiencies, validating results, So their own use of AI in the process and how that may govern procurement, and how they create the checks and balances, I think is really interesting. Some people are thinking about it today, but very few are kind of putting it into practice, so to speak. So early days.